Welcome to our Tourism and Hospitality Management Career Week panel. My name is Abby Hodder and I will be your moderator for today's session. This morning we have exciting guests who are here to speak to you about the world of tourism and hospitality management. But before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items that we'd like to review. In case of an emergency, please evacuate through the nearest emergency exit, which is the door right here as well as the door in the back. Please turn off or mute your cell phones and put them away from the tops of the tables. We kindly ask that you remain seated throughout the entire portion of the panel, as well as please postpone any questions you may have until the end. Time permitting, there will be a chance for Q&A session, as well as following the panel, you'll have the chance to speak to the panelists one-on-one. And finally, as many of you know, this is a Learning Passport eligible event. You would have received a Learning Passport activity survey on your table when you came in. If you do not have one, please let me know following the end of the session. Please refrain from completing the survey until the end of the panel. Following the panel, complete the survey as well as the activity page in your booklet, and then we will be able to stamp your Learning Passport. If you did forget your Learning Passport, I do have an activity page at the front, so please come see me and we will make sure that you're still able to get your stamp. So we will begin our panel now. Our first question is, briefly please describe the organization you work for as well as your position. And we'll get started with Meredith.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Meredith Hand. My position is Business Development Manager with Unique Vacations Canada. Unique Vacations Canada is a division of Sandals Resorts. Sandals Resorts is the #1 all-inclusive in the world for 22 years in a row now by the World Travel Awards. And we're a Jamaican company based out of Jamaica. Our owner's from there, but we're all over the English-speaking Caribbean. We have 19 different resorts.
Good morning. I'm Deanna Struthers, and I work for the Best Western Plus Chocolate Lake Hotel. It's a hotel with 144 guest rooms, with a restaurant and bar that seats about 100, and banquet space with 5 meeting rooms. And I'm the outlet manager. I manage the restaurant and the banquet department.
Good morning. I'm Sadie Harvey. I'm from Halifax Marriott Harbourfront. Our hotel has 352 guest rooms. During peak season, we could be employing anywhere from 290 to 300 associates at the hotel. Many of you I've seen before through various platforms, so I'm very excited to see some familiar faces again. And I work in hospitality and tourism.
Hi guys, my name is Christy Dempsey. I work with Flight Center Travel Group. I represent their corporate division, so I do business development for small to medium-sized businesses, and basically my role is to go out into anywhere in Atlantic Canada really, and meet with C-suites and discuss what their travel programs look like for their businesses, what their process looks like, what kind of things are important to them when it comes to cost containment or just supporting their travelers while they're on the road, and then tell them that they should book with us.
Good morning, guys. My name is Abi Baba. I'm restaurant manager at a restaurant called Antojo Tacos and Tequila, which comes under the umbrella of Legendary Hospitality. They own Dirty Nelly's as well as Stubborn Goat as well. 3 amazing restaurants as well as Stubborn Goat Beer Garden. My role as a restaurant manager is a big umbrella. You have several tasks in there, so I take care of recruiting, day-to-day operations, managing my margins, which is cost and labor cost, beverage cost, food cost, planning the menus, so all different tasks. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question related towards tourism is, how has your career evolved? Are you doing what you had planned? And how have experiences affected this? Yeah.
All right. Oh boy, this is a big question compared to the first one. I have a little bit of a weird story, which could take a long time. I don't want to bore you all, but I guess the answer is, I'll start from the end of the question. So no, I'm not planning what I thought I would do at all. I'm not doing what I thought I would do, what I had planned to do. My background is actually translation and interpretation. I have a master's degree. I went to school in Spain to become a translator and interpreter. So I thought I'd be working at the UN or, working behind the scenes in politics, translating and interpreting. I'm fluent in Spanish and French. So that's what I thought I would be doing. But once I started doing my master's, I loved what I did. and my passion is languages. I still do it for fun. I'm a total nerd that way. But I don't like the part of being alone by yourself, translating books or stuck in a room interpreting all by yourself. It's just a very solitary career. So when I completed that degree, I did go to Dal, by the way. I am from Halifax, but I did my graduate school in Spain. So when I finished my grad school in Malaga, Spain, I moved to Madrid, where I did an MBA in sports management. I thought I would use my languages in the domain of business, in particular sports being an international business, of course. If you have languages, it's a great place to work. That worked really well for me. I worked for Real Madrid, which is a soccer team in Madrid, Spain, for a number of years. And from there, I decided it was time to move home. My family's from here. And I moved home thinking I would go to Toronto to work for Toronto FC. That was the plan. It's a big soccer team in Canada. But I didn't want to be in Toronto. I wanted to be home. I'd been living in Spain for about 6 years at that point. So I missed home, and I love Spain and I love it there, but I didn't want to be away from home in Toronto again. So nothing against Toronto. But I moved home to Halifax, and it was pretty clear I knew there wasn't a ton of sports options here career-wise. That's growing now, which is exciting, but still nothing like I had been involved with. So I just started applying to jobs just to see what was out there, and I ended up getting a job in tourism with Sandals. I actually worked at the Lord Nelson Hotel and Suites for a short time before that. I got that job about 2 weeks after I moved home as sales manager for the Lord Nelson Hotel and Suites. I had no specific training and tourism background besides being assistant manager at the Harbour Hopper for many years when I was a student. So I'd done a lot of public speaking. And of course, I had a business background. So they hired me to be a sales manager at Lord Nelson, and that was a great experience, but I wasn't there long. I was there, I believe, a little less than a year before I got hired on with Sandals. So I've been with Sandals ever since. So that's a little brief, I guess, history of my career. I also spent some time in Spain working for the government, hiring English teachers from English-speaking countries, Canada, UK, Australia, United States, and in charge of the English-speaking program for the government of Spain through the education department. So my resume is a little varied, and I think the lesson that I would definitely kind of relate to that is to always take every opportunity that's given to you, because I know it sounds corny, but you never know where that might lead you. And because I worked at the Lord Nelson, that's how I ended up at Sandals, and who would have thought? So you never know what opportunities will come your way by taking on different opportunities that are presented to you.
I think I always wanted to be in food and beverage. I started out right out of high school. I went to culinary school at the Nova Scotia Community College, and I worked for several years in restaurants, and I got my red seal. Then I decided that I wanted to expand my knowledge, and I came here to the Mount, to the hospitality and tourism program. And then I basically stayed in food and beverage. I've done off-site catering. I've worked for hotels, for banquets. I've worked in restaurants. I got out of it for a couple of years and went into healthcare, but I quickly came back, and I'm really glad to be in food and beverage.
Similar to Meredith, I went kind of rogue. I did something completely polar opposite of what I had intended to do after I left school, and it was to join police forces of some nature. And that was where my mentality was. That's where I went and did some secondary education. And I landed at the hotel and casino, and I'm like, oh, well, this is different. And I ended up loving the unexpected. And here I am 20 years later working in the same hotel, but trying on many different uniforms in my path. And similar to you, take risks. Jump in, because you just don't know where that path is going to take you. So 20 years later, which is really unheard of for most people to stay at a job that long, or a company. I can't say the same job, because I did move around, which was phenomenal. But then landed in HR and absolutely loved the unexpected. So my next stages are going to go back to school and continue some complementary education part-time, because they can provide that for me while working full-time. So super uber excited about it. But yeah, that's kind of where my direction went. Completely different, yeah.
So you're going to see a trend. So this is not even close. In fact, I was determined not to work for a travel agency, funny enough. But I did my tourism degree here as well, and started out working in a photo lab. And you probably have no idea what a photo lab is anymore. But started working there. I was going to be a photographer. I was going to travel. I was going to take pictures. That did not pan out. I was not good at taking them. I was okay at developing them and selling the cameras. So once I graduated from here, I actually did my co-op with the Deltas of Halifax. Ended up staying there for all 3 of my co-ops and continued to work there for the 7 years I think I was there. Rotated through front office, did what they call a guest service agent. What else did I do there? I did the tour coordinator, so that was dealing with the bus tours and that sort of thing. So just kind of rotated around through there and ended in reservations. On the 7th year, I kind of was like, I'm out of university, now what do I do? Decided I didn't want to sit at the cubicle that I was in at that point and said, I'm going to quit and get on a boat. So I decided to join a tall ship and sail around the Caribbean for a year. Can't swim, so that was interesting for my parents, but I figured there were bigger challenges if I was in the water. And yeah, then came back and said, okay, I should probably sort my life out, and decided to work for Flight Centre, applied for a number of jobs, and said, I can do this part-time, just, a couple days a week, figure out what I want to do. Here I am 10 years later, gone through the travel consultant role, have been in leadership in the leisure space, then moved into the business travel, booked some of that, and still realized that that really wasn't where my passion. I can't sit behind a computer for that long, and needed to get out and actually speak and meet with people, which is where the business development end came in. So have been doing that for the corporate businesses now for the last 4.5 years or so, and yeah, here I am. Exactly the same kind of sentiment that the other ladies have said. You really don't know what is going to come your way based on the decision that you make and what is presented in front of you. So my sister is a little dirty sometimes, because she's like, it's always been so easy for you. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I want to go. And I said, but it's not that it's been easy. It's just that I thrive on change, and I want to take the risks, and I will, take an educated risk, not just kind of, I guess getting on a boat wasn't really educated, but anyway, take the risk, do it, see what happens. It can lead you to so many connections. You can meet so many different people, and yeah, it can just take you in a whole different path altogether. So, yeah.
Talking about the risk and challenges, I finished my high school, and I've always been a people person, and I wanted to do something in hospitality, and I chose this course in India, which was a hotel management bachelor's degree. So you do 2 years in India, 3rd year they send you to Toronto and George Brown College, and you finish your 3rd year over there. So you get 3 years degree from India and 1 year diploma from Canada. So I did that, moved over here. The biggest challenge what I had was language issue. I didn't know English properly. So my English was very bad, like 5.5 years ago. So after finishing my 1 year in Toronto, for visa extension purpose, I had to move to Manitoba because the rules were a little easier over there, and the condition for that was I had to find a job in the middle of nowhere in a small town in my field in a supervisor level. And at that time I found this job in a resort, which is a very nice resort in Manitoba. It's on a provincial park, and it's one of the greatest golf courses. It's called Lakeview Heckler Resort. And I found this job over here, there as a supervisor, and worked over there for a bit. And that was a big game changer in my career. I learned language over there very well because I had to speak English. There's no other option. I was the only one who could speak my native language over there. So learned a lot of things, learned from industry people who have been working over there from years and years. Made my way up to assistant manager, food and beverage assistant manager. Was taking care of like wedding, conferences, a big restaurant, and golf course as well. Food and beverage on that. And after 3.5 years of learning a lot of things from there, when I started to get too comfortable on that island because there was not much challenges, there was nothing much to spend on, it was kind of very isolated. So I decided to move to a nicer city. I chose Halifax. And Halifax had this charm of small town as well as this big opportunities. So that's why I came over here. When I came here, I started working with Stubborn Goat Beer Garden as assistant manager. Worked over there for a bit, for a season, and when it ended, they planned my transition because they liked my work. And at that time, Entohu was just opening. So in October, I joined the team of Entohu as a restaurant manager and planned everything, opened the place, beverage program, food program, and staffing. And now it's been 10 months I've been working over there, and it's been going very well. We just got some awards yesterday. Yeah. Thank you.
Our next question is, dealing specifically with your company, describe the hiring process for university graduates, and what does your company look for in new hires? And we'll start with Deanna.
In our company, each manager hires for their own department. And to be frank, I don't actually receive a lot of resumes from university graduates, but what I do look for is professionalism. Somebody's well-spoken, respectful, open, friendly personality. I want to see when they smile, I want to see your face light up. And basically a positive attitude, because I can teach skills.
We have a very structured university recruitment plan with Marriott Hotels Canada, which is fabulous because there's wonderful tools to work with. So we work very closely with the hospitality tourism programs at both the Mount and NSCC. But speaking to universities specifically, we have 3 different streams. You have your seasonal summer placements, where you come in and you do a seasonal co-op type role. The other stream is you apply for an internship, and the internship includes deliverables. So it's co-op on steroids in a sense. It's like a co-op placement, but you're still doing homework, so you're not going to give up school that quickly. So you're going to be doing homework and different deliverables through that process. By going through an internship, it then sets you up for what's called the Marriott Voyage Program. The Voyage Program is designed for university graduates, and that is a management position. So it's a management and training position. You would be located you would be specifically taken and going, you're going here. You have to be portable, you have to be relocatable in most cases, and if in the Voyage Program, they will help relocate you financially. So they would take you and place you at a hotel, and you're there for a full year in a management role. And from there, the doors open specifically for that, and you have so many more opportunities. So for those of you that are in a co-op or seasonal summer placement position or education, certainly look at all the different streams. And I know one of you in this room is going through the internship. I won't point out names. But it's going to be a fabulous experience for that individual, because then come graduation, it's just going to set them up for that foot in the door for the next stage. So that's kind of the stream we go with university graduates. Of course, randomly we'll get lots of applications from university graduates outside of tourism and so forth, but you have the added benefit of getting to know the employer and really getting your name known in the industry by going through this direction. What do we look for? I love it because my chef really said it really well. He goes, I'm looking for my next dance partner. And that's essentially what we're looking for, is that person that's going to ebb and flow with us and help us with the direction of the hotel. And attitude comes first. We can't train attitude. We can't train the brilliant smile that walks into that room where you walk away after the interview going, that was awesome, right? They just light up the room, and you know they're going to light up that experience for our guests. It's a no-brainer. We can train you how to use a cash register. We can train you how to use a POS system. We can't train you to smile. that has to come from within. So I guess above all, like that would be the number one thing we look for, is that engaging attitude during the interview process, because you have a 30-minute window to sell yourself. Make it count. So that's what we look for.
So Flight Centre Travel Group in general, again, similar to the Marriott's, is that it's a very structured application process. It's a global business, so last year globally we did $20 billion in sales. So you can imagine how many resumes are actually coming through the portal on any given day for any given country or business. So you do have to kind of go through the process of, applying online, doing the phone interview. We've started doing assessment days, which I believe some businesses are starting to really get into, which is new. We never did that back when I was looking for a job. So, you're in the room with other peers and you're kind of doing your mini training, but then also, presenting yourself against your peers. So it can be a bit intimidating, but the main thing that we're looking for is that passion, that travel obviously is what we do, and it is our business. So if you have traveled, that is a huge advantage. You're able to speak to being stuck in an airport and having a delay. You're able to understand and empathize with those travelers that are calling you, going, my hotel is sold out. Sorry, guys. Or my plane has bumped me, or whatever the case is. Those are the types of innate personality traits that we can't make you have. You need that. Even in my role when I was hiring internal sales, we call them SDRs, and they're literally making cold calls daily, all day, 40 calls minimum, just cold call. Those people, I can teach them how to make a cold call and how to be effective in that space, but if they are calling and you can't hear that they don't hate their lives in their voice, that person on the other end of the line is not going to give them the time of day. So just being passionate, knowing what your strengths are, taking stock of that, and really being able to play up to those are kind of the key things that we want to look for. So,
Guys, your ability to sell yourself starts from your resume. You want to make sure that you put enough effort in your resume and make it sellable. When people look at it, they stop at it. Because as in our company, especially when Antoho started, we went through more than 400 resumes and shortlisted 60 for phone screening. So that's our very first step, is like we shortlist some resumes and then we call them. Phone screening is more like checking their availability, what they are looking for, what hospitality means to them, just asking some basic questions so we know that is it worth it to call this candidate in an interview, because it's a big investment. When you call somebody and you have to take 45 minutes to an hour out for them. So with shortlisted candidate, then we start personal interview, and then after that is reference checks. We go through some reference check. So you want to make sure that anywhere you worked in past or anywhere you helped in volunteer, or your teachers or your faculties, like you're making that impression that they will be able to put good words for you. And after checking the references, we finally call them for onboarding, which is a big step for hiring as well, to getting them in the culture of our company, that how we do things over here, how what hospitality means to us, and how we please our guests. So that's our hiring process. And while hiring, the very first thing we look for, as my other panelists said as well, is positive attitude. That's the very first thing people will look into you. If you have positive attitude and willingness to learn, you can go. Again, as they said, like skills can be teachable, but a positive attitude comes with how you are generally. Are you a genuinely caring person or no? So that's what we look for, and skills we teach, and that's our hiring process. Thank you.
With Sandals Resorts International, it's also a tough question for me to answer. Just as a little bit of background, there's a dozen people that work for Sandals in all of Canada, obviously including myself, but there are 15,000 people that work for our company in total. So depending on where you're looking to work, there's a lot of different opportunities. Obviously, the majority of our staff are located on our resorts. We do average between 2 and 3 staff members per guest on our resorts. So there's more staff than there are people visiting our resorts. So there's a lot of different roles. The main one that jumps to mind as far as university graduates who are looking kind of for their first opportunity, or even while they're still in university, would be our internship program. It tends to be European students. I can't speak to why, because I have nothing to do with hiring interns on resorts. That's nothing to do with my role. I can find out more information, but I know when I go down to the resorts and I take a bunch of travel agents or suppliers, tour operators down to our resorts to view our resorts, very, very often there is a intern who comes along with us on the tour and with our visits, who is there for anywhere from 3 to 6 months to training and working in different divisions, working with food and beverage, working with sales, working with our, of course, our your back of house crew. They do all of those different roles. They move them around, so they really understand the dynamic of how the resort works. Again, similar to the rest of the panel, we always have a saying at Sandals. They've said it from day one. I've been with the company for 6 years. They say it every time we have a meeting. We hire the smile, we train the skill. So that is 100% what we're all about. All management in any hospitality company, but of course with Sandals as well, we want to make management's life as easy as possible. And if you hire somebody with a bad attitude or who's not able to make the guests happy, because our guests are expecting you to be very happy when you're going to a 5-star, #1 in the world, all-inclusive, they expect a lot. And so we need our staff to be able to deliver. All of our staff who are hired, do go through a 3-month training process before they hit the ground running. So there's a very, very in-depth. Once you get in and once you do that 3-month training, it doesn't mean you're going to be hired. That 3-month course, usually, less than half actually make it onto the team. So we have a very strict hiring process that way.
Our next question is, and as you notice, there's a number of students in the room today as well as there's students online, who may someday like to become a senior manager in one of your companies or a company similar to yours. So can you give them insight in how they can accomplish this goal?
That's a big question. I was reading this the other night. I'm like, I don't know how to answer this question. But then I realized I was a senior manager because I filled in for maternity leave as a director of human resources. Wow, I would have never thought I would have landed in that role ever. Twice, because she had 3 babies and, well, anyway, I covered 2 of them. So it was just one of those things where success is never final, right? Just keep reaching. The famous words of Mr. Marriott is success is never final. Always just keep reaching for the next level. Get uncomfortable. You're not learning unless you're uncomfortable. If you're not uncomfortable, you've stopped learning something. So just keep that in mind. If you're feeling like, you're learning something. You're learning something about yourself, and you're probably learning something within your job because you're feeling uncomfortable, and that's okay. Take risks. Ask a lot of questions. Once your foot is in the door, ask a lot of questions. If you have a company that's as lucky as us and we have a professional development manager, a performance development manager, sit down with them, interview them, tell me what I can learn so I can get to the next stage. Don't plan too far ahead because, as you can see from all of us, that changes along the way, right? So just plan for the next couple of years going, okay, I want to reach a manager. I want to reach a supervisor. Get those building blocks established first, because once you reach that position, you're like, ooh, what's this, right? I have a banquet captain who's now looking to become a training manager. Who would have thought they want to leave food and beverage to become training, corporate training? So again, just build those building blocks along the way and get on committees, get into those organizations where you're leading events or organizational changes. Be the first volunteer for your department to do something. Your voice is heard. You're like, oh, I remember you, or I remember them. They were on this committee. Be that person that you're going to be remembered. So just small piece of advice is, but yeah, don't stop and just remember to get uncomfortable is my biggest piece of advice.
I 100% agree with what Sadie just said. We'll touch probably on some goals and what that looks like for life planning, even though it doesn't always go the way you think. But set yourself small, achievable goals. There's the whole SMART goals. that allows you to also fail and not feel like it's the be-all, end-all, and that's the end. You know, maybe you think that banquets is the way you want to go, but you get there and it really just isn't a fit for you. It's not what you enjoy doing. It's not a fail, it's a learning opportunity to then go and see what else you can do, but you haven't completely sidetracked everything else that you've been thinking about doing. For me, my experience all along is really to align yourself with the people that are in the types of positions that you're interested in. It's not, I mean, there is an element, I guess, of who you know, but it's more just learning from them and knowing what skills you have that are strengths that match or areas of weakness that you need to focus and work on to be able to get to that place that you want to go. Big thing for me is show your worth. You know, don't walk into a job and go, I've been here 8 months, move me on. Or when's that promotion going to come up? You really want to demonstrate and be able to kind of keep track so you can sell yourself, like you said. You want to let your intentions be known. Talk to your supervisor or your manager or the HR department and say, look, I really think this is an area of interest for me. These are the steps that I've taken on my own to kind of align myself and get myself prepared for that. What else do you think I should do? Who should I talk to? Who do I need to let know that this is where my goal is? I've seen people, like I said, our company is global, and in Canada we've got over 1,800 employees just in one division. And I've seen people kind of come in and, you know, get disillusioned and just be like, oh, well, I'm not moving anywhere. And it's like, well, have you told anybody you're interested in being an assistant manager or a team leader? Well, no. Okay. Maybe you should. So really just align yourself appropriately with the right people, have those conversations, be open and honest, because not everybody can read where they think you want to go. So,
guys, especially in food and beverage industry, one thing which will take you on long run, which would be knowledge. Have as much knowledge as you could about food and beverages. The trend changes so fast, and there's several ways to do that. Like nowadays, like there's Instagram and any social media. Like there's enough content on those social media to learn about changing trends. Having that knowledge and putting it out there, as she said, that in front of people, that this is what you're willing to grow and this is what you want to learn. Sometimes you have to go out of your way and put time in your personal time. Oh, I'm not getting paid for it, but do you mind teaching me this skill? I would really like to learn. So things like those, when people see those, that you have an urge to learn in you, then people will invest in you, and one day you will be where you want to be. And goal is not a destination, it is a journey. It's going to keep changing. Once you achieve it, you might have something else. But again, putting that pride in your work and putting that effort and show people, show yourself that why you want to learn and you are willing to learn new skills. Thanks.
This might sound funny, but I think the number one thing that you should do if you're looking to be senior management is make your boss look good. Period. End of story. There's a lot of people I find that I see in different roles that, you know, are all about achieving and moving up the ladder, and sometimes they skip over their own boss to try to move up, and there's nothing worse that you can do. You want everything you do in your career, whether it is an internship or, 3-month job or whatever it is, you want to make your boss look good. I honestly remember my mom told me that when I was like junior high student, and I never forgot it. It's so true. And a lot of decisions, we all have challenges in the workplace all the time. At the end of the day, you want to stand up for yourself, you want to speak up, but always make your boss look good. Always, because that's how you're going to move up. You laugh when you think in, high school, like that kid that's sucking up in class to the teacher. I'm sorry. When it comes to the real world, that's how it works too. I mean, not to be obvious about it, but just, to respect your boss and make them look good. Again, speaking up is really important as well. Make sure that you're a voice that can be heard. I find a lot of people are nervous to speak up. Some people obviously are more comfortable speaking in a group of people. If you're not comfortable speaking up, maybe it's something that you can work on. Find some ways that you can kind of challenge yourself to speak up. And maybe not all your ideas or your thoughts are going to be taken and embraced, but still try to speak up because, again, that's a learning opportunity for you as well. And if you never, say what you think, then it's going to be hard to make it to a senior management role. And finally, when you're a senior manager, every single senior manager has a brand and has a very defined brand. Everybody manages differently. So, how you're going to become a senior manager is now when you're applying to be an assistant or whatever the role is, you need to make sure you have a defined brand. That has to do with your smile. That has to do how you present yourself. Attention to detail is huge. Have you ever had a senior manager? I hope not, but have you ever had a senior manager who sends an email with a million typos? Right? So attention to detail and making sure that you are representing your brand, whoever you are a brand unto yourself, and you really need to take that seriously and make sure you're presenting it properly and authentically to the world.
I think to say something a little bit different, but or to expand on it, it's just you're building relationships. You're building relationships right now, and you're going to always be building relationships because you never know in 10, 20 years, the person you went to school with that you didn't really like and, you would talk about, well, all of a sudden now they're in charge of hiring for your position. So you never, ever know who you're going to run into. And then the word gets out too. It's like, wow, I really like working with this person. So you're developing that respect. And part of building relationships is focusing on your communication style. I've been working on that. But communication skills, because if you have to have a difficult conversation, how are you going to say it? Are you going to speak? Are you coming from the point of view that I'm hurt and I want this person to know I'm hurt? Or am I coming to the point of view that I really want to work with this person and I want to make this successful? And how am I going to enter this conversation?
Perfect. So the next question we're going to ask is, what are the most important skills people need in the tourism and hospitality industry?
All right, so you're probably going to see some consistency, I would imagine, in this answer as well. So I was trying to think outside of the box a little bit. But obviously interaction with people, that's what you're going to be doing day in and day out, whether it's the people you're working with or the people that are coming to either stay at your hotel or, partake in your meals or whatever it is that they're coming to do to purchase from you. So again, it kind of goes back to being authentic and being genuine. Customers, anybody that's doing anything can see through when you're just putting on that facade. So you really want to make sure that you're invested in what you're doing. But for me, I think also having some business acumen and understanding the goals and objectives of the company that you're working for. So again, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a small business that's doing a small tour operator, having the knowledge of what the owners and operators of that business, what their goals are, what they want to convey to their customers or clients or visitors, really helps you be able to, again, convey that back to whoever is participating or buying the product or what have you. Things go wrong. When you're the face of the company interacting with those folks, you're the one that it's going to fall on to fix whatever they deem wrong, whether or not it's valid or not. But you need to know that you need your solution to be, well, you need to be solutions focused, and you also need to have that align with the expectations of the business. If you just walk out to the front desk and give away a 4-person highfalutin meal, well, maybe your bosses aren't going to be so pumped that you did that, where you could have done something else that might be more in line with how they want to, convey their message. So that would be my kind of key to that.
I would say, guys, in addition to those skills, the skills you really need in hospitality, especially in the restaurant industry, food and beverage industry, is being personable. Have that genuinely care in you, that people want to be served with you. People feel like when you serve them, when you're around, when you're taking care of them, people feel like they are at home. So that being genuinely care and being personable, because by being personable, you'll be able to solve a lot of issues. There's things happen, and sometimes it's just a chat away. We call it in our language, like chat away the guest, like, and he's happy, she's happy. So with those skills and have the integrity, like, do you do the right things when nobody's watching? Again, those are the most important skills I would say you would need in hospitality.
The most important skill, which I don't know if really, I mean, I guess it's a skill. Yeah, I guess. You can learn to be more, I guess, is to be flexible. I think somebody mentioned it before, just being adaptable to change. I've worked in other industries. I used to be a recruiter for a university, for example. I mean, I've done a lot of things before I ended up in tourism and hospitality. And this is, from any of the industries I've worked in, the most changing, consistently changing industry I've ever experienced. Every day is different. There's always something going to be thrown at you. So you need to be adaptable and flexible to change, and what you expect to accomplish that day might not happen, and what you expect your workday to kind of roll out like probably won't happen in this industry, in most forms anyway, of your positions that you might end up in. So I think that's the most important skill. We've already talked about, being positive and all of that as well. But just to generalize in the overall industry, I think flexibility is one of the most important.
Another one is maintaining your composure and focus under stress, especially in food and beverage. Expect something to go wrong, so you need to know how to deal with it and not get flustered and stay focused, because the more you get flustered, then the customer picks that up, and then it becomes a lot more difficult to solve the issue. Another one that is, when you're under stress, sometimes you forget empathy, and you forget to empathize, and that's huge. And we think it's comes naturally, but it doesn't. I can remember a time working for the hotel, and parking was limited, and guests were coming in frustrated, and then the guest service agent said, "Oh yeah, we have difficult with parking." There's no empathy. So then the guest gets really mad, and then it goes all over TripAdvisor. So if they would have just said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, parking is really difficult. Let me see what I can do, and let's see if we can find a spot together."
It's always the hardest when you're the last to answer the question. Now I get it. Attitude is number one. I've spoken about this before. Change is always constant. So if you don't like change, this is not the industry for you. Whether it's technology change, systems change, menu changes, service changes. There isn't a day I don't walk into the office and go, "Oh, Sadie, something's changed." Really? It's going to happen every single day. Build connections. You have to show that you know how to build connections with people, and not through texting, by having conversations face to face. We forget sometimes that, oh, that's right, I need to learn, I got to talk to you and not text people. And sometimes it's just knowing that ability to be able to connect with people is so important. In all of our industries, we learn body language, so we're constantly watching people's body languages. So like being able to respond to cues. You'll know when somebody's not happy, but you'll also know when somebody's completely ecstatic with the experience they're having. So you need to be able to respond to both. What else is it? Working in a dynamic industry and being able to do it with control. You've spoken about that. Being able to handle things on your feet. Being able to respond to a guest complaint very quickly and with empathy too. And I'm glad that you spoke to that, because that was going to be something I was going to raise as well. They want to know that you care about them. They're not just another person handing you money or a credit card or just walking through the door having feeding to your business. They're real people in these industries and in our businesses that we really want to make sure that we're caring for them. They're guests in our homes, essentially, because this is a second home to most of us. So that would be those. I think that's it.
This is going to be our final question before we open the floor to student questions. So are there members of your organization that students once they graduate, so graduates, should get involved with in order to build connections with your company, as well as if they're looking for a position within your company, who can they connect with?
Guys, start from your school, make those connections, and get out there and look for the events. There's a lot of events happen in the city, career development, like this is one of it as well in your college. Um, like things like those, you'll be able to find a lot of those. And through social media, like people are on Instagram and their cell phones a lot of a good part of their day now. So spending those time on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and getting to know people who are in the industry, who are professionals, and making those connections would help you a long way.
Yeah, same with me. My answer would be the big one is social media with a company of our size. There's the postings for internships and that kind of thing can be accessed that way. But if you have any questions at all, I mean, there's nobody here locally at all except for me, so I guess that falls on me, and that's fine. Again, I don't hire. I just want to be clear about that at all, but I can definitely pass on your information. I don't have a team that I work with. I don't manage anyone, so I don't have anyone to hire. But I can definitely pass it on to our head office. Our head office is, from a sales perspective, is in Miami, and we also have head offices in Jamaica as well.
For organizations here in Halifax, there's TIANS and there's also Discover Halifax, which is you can be a member without as a student. Especially, my GM said, especially if you're going to want to start your own business or get out on your own, TIANS is a really good resource for you.
I echo TIANS especially. So if you're Googling it, it's TIANS. I forget the complete breakout. Something, Tourism Association of Nova Scotia, Industry Association of Nova Scotia. The other one would be Tourism Talent is another one to look at. It's not a hot spot, but it's certainly some place to connect with for tourism employment. Greater Halifax Partnership is another organization that you might want to reach out to as well. And those who are new to Canada, I would encourage you greatly to reach out to ISANS. It's the Immigration Association of Nova Scotia. If you're looking for an additional second language training, enhancing English skills, connecting with industry partners, we work very closely with ISANS. It's another organization. They can also assist with work permits and PRs and all of those wonderful things, the Atlantic Pilot programs. So that would be a great outlet to connect with. And if you're looking for somebody fun to follow on LinkedIn, I would go Arnie Sorensen. He is our president and CEO of Marriott International. He has some really cool posts, and I always go on there and find something fun to read. And he just speaks from a global perspective, not just about what Marriott has to offer, but just the industry in general and where it's going globally. So I always find him enjoyable to follow on LinkedIn. So those would be my suggestions.
Same idea. LinkedIn is huge for me in my role specifically, but you know, again, Flight Centre Travel Group, whether it's the leisure end of the business or the corporate end of the business, follow them on LinkedIn, or I guess through any of the platforms really, but they kind of give you an oversight as to what's happening in the travel industry globally. It wouldn't just be specific, so you can really kind of see what kind of trends are happening, what things are emerging. We obviously would hope that everybody wants to stay in Halifax, but again, listening to our histories, we know that people will leave and go. So again, our company is global, so there's lots of opportunity around the world as far as jobs go and how it all fits together. Local groups that I've seen successful and that have been helpful to me, right here on campus you have the Center for Women in Business. They're a great group to be a part of. You get to network, you're really able to build those networking skills. We've talked about building relationships, and networking can be super intimidating for people. So start off with some of those kinds of groups where everybody's there with that same intention versus walking into an association event that you know nobody, and there'll be the little cliques. It's kind of like high school with little cliques, but go join some of those things. Fusion, Halifax as well offers networking events. So you're going to meet business and industry leaders and industry partners at all of those. They're not going to be specific to travel, but they certainly, again, let you hone those skills that you are going to need in whatever it is that you're doing. What else do I have? Then just a couple of other things, like there's some really women-focused ones that I've done, Queen Pins, Leading Ladies, 100 Women That Care. Like there's tons of them. You can just kind of Google them for what's happening in Halifax. But then also just volunteering. If you're passionate about something or there's a cause that you're passionate about, volunteer with that organization. You're going to meet people that are in all companies, all areas, all positions that also are volunteering. So you're doing something you enjoy, but you're also starting to build those relationships, and you never know when that person might be of value to you in your path.
Thank you. So we now have time for students' questions. There is a microphone that we can pass around the room. So if there's someone who would like to start, you can raise your hand and the microphone will be brought to you, and then you can just pass it on to the next student.
Don't be shy. This is the fun part.
This is our favorite part.
Yeah, please don't be shy. We're no longer like, this is easier.
Raise your hand high.
Hi, my name's Juicy. You mentioned something about, when I'm in an interview and I'm in front of all these people from different departments and I have no experience but a wonderful personality. What do I really say?
I actually had that same question recently because I had somebody in front of me who had never had an interview before. No job experience, and she did fabulous because her attitude sold her. And we can train on anything. Use whatever you can from high school, whether it's committees, sports teams, student council, tutoring, how you helped another student through a difficult time, because you know what, life is real. It's real in high school, it's real in junior high, it's no longer just an adult issue. Life gets in the way at all ages. So showcase how you've helped and cared for other people. Volunteer work, everything is transferable, so use that to your advantage. If you babysat somebody's neighbor, put it on your resume, whatever you can sell yourself, but don't, we all had to have a first job somewhere, right? So somebody gave me a try, I don't know why, but they did. So you have to start somewhere, so don't let that hold you back. Get into some volunteer work now. If you're doing stuff here at the university, put that on your resume, for sure.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, I would also add, research the company that you're applying for. Nothing is worse than somebody coming and sitting in front of you that has no idea who you are as a business, what your objectives are, what your culture is like. And, you know, I'll be frank and say I'd probably put that back on some people and go, have you done any research about us? You know, why do you want to work for us? That's a question that interviewers will ask. Why have you come to us? You've come to us. Why? What is it about our business that attracted you? And if you don't have an answer and you're just like, I saw you on Indeed, maybe not ideal. So, so yeah, do some research just on the business, on the company, so that you know what you're talking about.
Guys, I'll add to that. Do not hesitate to go into an interview room because it's your first interview. The worst thing which can happen is you don't get selected. But guess what? When you go to your second interview, you have experience from that first interview, that what did you do wrong. So again, experience counts. You said you don't have any experience. The more interviews you give, the more experience you get to crack those.
And further to that, make sure you follow up. Make sure you follow up, because I have hired in the past and I have hired the people that followed up. If I couldn't decide, I'll hire the person that followed up every time, because that person has initiative, right? So that's super, super important. And yeah, definitely when it comes to interviews, take every interview. Even if it's an interview that you think, it's not really my thing, take it. If you don't have experience with interviews, that's absolutely huge. And that's how I got the job at Lord Nelson. I was like, I don't really have any experience working in hotels, but I've been home from Europe for 2 weeks and I wasn't working at the time and I had student loans to pay. And so I went to the interview and I got hired. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know how I was going to, just like you. I mean, I'd had interview experience, but I had no hotel experience. And they want me to be the sales manager of the hotel. What am I going to do in this interview, right? But take it, because worst thing is you'll learn.
We need at least 2 more.
Yeah, we can move on.
I don't let people leave orientation without 5 questions per room, and this is a big class. And I'm having a class of 12. Don't be shy.
Like we said earlier, you learn when you get uncomfortable. So make us uncomfortable.
Oh, no, I don't know if I want that.
I think Shannon may have a question.
How did you like, I didn't even have my hand up. Okay. Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Shannon, second year tourism and hospitality management student. So you said make you uncomfortable. Well, this is making me uncomfortable because I don't really want to ask it something I'm thinking, and I'm just going to ask it anyway. So I guess the biggest thing for me is that I have 7 years serving bartending experience, and now I'm back to school because I don't want to be a career server. But the biggest thing is the thought of giving up that money, because I know that as soon as I come out with a $40,000, $50,000 student loan, I'm going to go into an entry-level position regardless of my serving experience. And I'm probably sitting around $30,000 a year. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to live off? Sorry, excuse my language. Live off that. And so, yeah, it's just a little bit of a fear of mine. But I know it's maybe just like something that's like bite the bullet. And everyone has to go through this process. And eventually you make your way up based on the opportunities you take. Yeah, so I don't know. This might be other students' like worry as well. So I'm just kind of wondering how long it takes. Not like you need to say 10 years before you see an increase in pay, and I'm sure it's depending on the people too. But yeah, approximately what it kind of looks like. The pay scale.
Shannon, a lot of people go through the same thing because serving is a very a lot of students are servers, and then they go to school and want to do something in management or own their own business, and it's always a big challenge. And I know very well that how much money it could be in serving as compared to what you get in management at entry level. So in order to get somewhere, of course, you have to sacrifice something. Keep that end goal in mind, that there will be times that you'll need some help, financial help from banks and stuff. The serving job title, they don't give loan for houses, they don't give loan for things, and it's like when you are in management, it helps you in long term, as well as you're not developing as a person yourself, but you're helping other people develop as well. And when you do small things, where you were serving, because I worked closely with you, and you made that impression, and everybody should, like, doesn't matter what job it is, that you made that impression that when you go back, that people are ready to hire you back, not at just a serving position, but if you are doing something in your career, in school, you should be able to get directly into management position or supervisor position and make your way up.
I think to start the work now, if that makes sense. Again, developing those networks. Nobody's telling you have to start at an entry-level job when you leave, right? There's a stat, I have no idea what it is, but it's particular to women and not applying for jobs above where they think they should be, and just being intimidated with, firing right off. But a guy is going to go and he's going to go CEO right from the get-go. Don't quote me on that. There's a much better way to say that. But don't limit yourself to saying, okay, I'm done. Now I've got this debt. Now I just have to go take an entry-level call center or something. Like, you go really build it now and go off the top. Because again, what are you going to lose if you apply for a job that you can take your transferable skills and say, look, I know serving, you're going to see serving and judge it. However, that means I did this, this, and this. You've asked for this, this, and this. Pretty much the same thing. So I just think don't limit yourself in saying, it's going to be entry level, and here we go.
And just to be frank with you, this might surprise some of you. I'll tell you all, I'm 35. This is the first job I've ever had that I've only worked one job. And I've been doing this for 6 years now. So just to give you a little idea, like, how long it takes. When I worked at the Lord Nelson, I was serving on the side, paying off my student loans at the Machi House. So I was working there like twice a week or whatever. When you can get those jobs where they only need like a few hours a week, if you can find those. I mean, if you have serving experience, I'm sure you have, great contacts with your management. I'm sure they love you. So if you can get, those holes where you're not in class and you're able to fill that in a little bit and manage your time. I think it's a lot about time management. When I lived in Spain, I taught English on the side, and I was going to school, doing grad school, and I was working for the government at the same time. So I technically, like, if you include school, I had like maybe even 3.5 jobs. And yeah, I had some fun times in Europe too, but I worked a lot and I studied a lot. So that can be really frustrating. And I remember, going towards 30 and being like, how much longer is this going to be? But, you pay off your student loans. Well, first of all, with this job, I couldn't work a second job if I tried, because I travel a lot. But so that would be impossible. But this is the first time I've only worked one job. So, I mean, you got to put in the time. You can't be, the L word. You can't be lazy. You got to, work, and it's worth it once you pay off those student loans. But I totally agree. Don't think that you're going to go into an entry-level job. There's lots of jobs you can do simultaneously while you're in school, make awesome connections. I worked at a law office when I was doing my undergrad at Dal. And I just came in. He was great. Like, he didn't care when I came in. I came in whenever I wasn't in class, and worked, in the office, typing and organizing files and things like that. So, and he continues to be a huge mentor for me to this day, the owner of that law firm. So making those connections can be so important, personally, but also professionally. So just every opportunity, like we were saying earlier, take every opportunity.
And I mean, when you're looking at I assume you have one more co-op to go through. Look at an internship or a management and trainee program that is led. Like, I mean, I can speak for my company because that's what we do offer. But go into your interviews and go, what do you do to set up university students for success at the next stage? So, for example, I would pump out that Voyage program like nobody's business, saying when you graduate, just that fall before you graduate, apply for Voyage, because that's a management and trainee program. You're going to skip past those entry-level positions and you're going to be in a management position. So interview your next co-op placement to say, what do you do to align your graduates so that they're set up for success, so that I'm not going into an entry-level position. But like, to echo what they've said, absolutely, you're only limiting yourself by saying, I'm only going to land in an entry position. That's not the case. Okay, so set your bar higher and interview us when you're going into those experiences, because you want to find the right fit for you that's going to put you in the position you want to be in. But again, yeah, a lot of us work second jobs. We're not going to lie. I mean, but it paid off our student loans faster, for sure, yeah.
Do you have the mic? Front.
I didn't want to, I wanted to get you, going with the questions. So I guess originally I kind of didn't have as much interest in the tourism industry. The funny thing is I travel a lot. I want a job that I'm able to do lots of travel with, but I'm a bartender and server as well, and I don't want to serve forever. And so I guess I just kind of figured it was only, serving or hotels is really all it, all tourism really had, I guess, to it. I've worked for Marriott, actually. It was an awesome company to work for. I guess I'm just don't worry. I loved Marriott. It was great. I guess I'm just wondering, you guys all had a trend there. You touched on a lot of different little jobs you did before the job you're in now. So I guess just like, which is your favorite stepping stone job that you guys had on the way up?
I'll start with that one. For me, it's definitely the first job I had out, which goes back to your question. Shannon, right? Yeah, it goes back to your question. The first job I had was I was a recruiter for Dalhousie University. So as soon as I graduated from my undergrad, so I hadn't gone to grad school yet, I was hired by the registrar's office at Dal, and my job was to travel around mainly Canada, but also a bit the States, the Caribbean, and recruit and do presentations at high school. You probably all remember maybe in many of your high schools where you had recruiters come in and do presentations about the different universities on University Day. So I did that for a year and a half before I moved to Spain. And that was my best experience for my stepping stone. It was my first job. It's awesome getting a full-time paycheck. That's an amazing feeling. And I also got to travel and so kind of manage my own time. You didn't have to have that boss standing over you all the time. I was on the road a lot and traveling, which is a blast when you're, early 20s. So it was a lot of fun. But also I really, I came right before that from being a Harbour Hopper tour guide. So public speaking was fine, but you know, even when you think you're a great public speaker, I look back now to that and I've improved a lot, you know, and it's same with when we were talking about communication skills. I feel like when you're young, you're like, oh, I'm a great communicator. And then you realize, oh gosh, I have some stuff to learn as you go through challenges in the workplace and relationships and, you know, those kind of things. But yeah, that would be my favorite job is DAL, because I really got to learn and a lot of feedback. It was a great place to work because there was a lot of opportunities to, you know, hone my skills, feedback on presentations, work with a whole team of people who also provided feedback. So it was just really exciting because, you know, you think you know so much and there's always so much more room to grow in your career.
My favorite position was working for an off-site catering company. It'd be long hours, but everyone was in it together, felt like a team, and you got to see some stuff that I probably would have never, ever seen. We did a function in Cape Breton in a field overlooking the lake, and there was no bathrooms, no water, and how do we make this work? And it was a lot of fun. But then after so many years, my feet hurt and I got tired, and then I went into kind of more permanent stationary buildings, but I look upon that time with a lot of fun.
Okay, let me think. When I was a dedicated recruiter for the hotel, I loved it. I loved it. This is my favorite part. I like getting out of the hotel. I like getting into classrooms. I despise public speaking. It makes me very uncomfortable. So sitting here, I'm like twisting my fingers. But at the same time, I love getting in and connecting with students. It's one of my favorite things. When I was recruiting full-time, I got the opportunity to go to Barbados twice, and I thought, whoa, this is awesome, right? And that was so cool because it really set me up for some new roles. And then I think the second position that really got me excited was when they offered me the director of HR position. I was scared out of my mind. I didn't know what I was in for. And it's like the whole, the concept, like the duck under the water, like you're just going like this under the water, and you're like, oh, everything's great, right? Inside, you're like, oh my God. But it set me up to make my boss look great when she came back, right? It goes back to like, okay, I've gotten some new confidence, I've got new skills. Now I can like make her look like a superstar because I can support her in a way that I've never been able to support her. And now we're just rocking it out. So it was awesome because now we're a dynamic team. So I guess those would be the two positions I really love the most. Outside of working as a security officer, that was a whole new game, right? But that was just fun. That was really fun.
Mine is probably dropping the desk and going sailing for a year. It's hard to say that wasn't cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm not old, but back when I was in high school, it was high school, university, get the job, go, like that was the expectation, which has obviously changed a lot now. So that's exactly what I did. I did the high school, I came to university, was, as I said, at the Delta for 7 years, and, not, doing well there as well, but then was just like, what am I doing? So that really gave me the opportunity to just kind of go let loose, but still be in the industry I wanted to be in. I learned a lot out of that job because it was the host / purser, so I was serving, I was bartending, didn't clean the cabins. I was not one of my strengths, which I was happy about, but had to manage the money, had to make sure that the guests were happy. It was just like a floating hotel, but in very small Caribbean islands where it's not just cruise ship. Like we had to make the excursion. If the excursion was not going to go that day because the guy slept in, we had to figure out what to do next. So lots of transferable skills that I think of now, that play a role in kind of the corporate world as well. So yeah.
My very first professional job is very close to my heart. It was as supervisor in that resort I was talking about, and very challenging because didn't know the culture, didn't know the language, and I was 21-year-old supervisor, and the staff who were working for me, some of them were 50 years old, 54 years old, and they would always say, Abhi, I've been serving since you were not even born. I was like, okay, well, we'll figure out ways how to do it now. But I would say the biggest step up in my career was this recent job in Tohu, getting from assistant manager position, getting that step up to food and beverage restaurant manager, and which in this expensive restaurant, which took a lot of money to build that with a lot of hype, a lot of challenges with that. And why I enjoyed it is because it was a lot of work. It was a big challenge. Imagining opening a restaurant in this room where you have nothing, you're starting from the scratch. You know that you have to hire a team. You have to, where you're gonna put your bar, where you're gonna put your ice machines, how it's gonna be more functional. So making those decisions and looking back to it, and now that it is working out well, people are having a good time there. It's amazing. That's my favorite job.
Perfect. Well, that concludes our panel for today. We do not have any more time for student questions. However, you can come up and speak to the panelists afterwards. I advise you to please complete your Learning Passport survey as well as your booklet, and we'll do stamping in the back. And also, please give a big round of applause for our panelists today.